Imagine walking into your own home after a holiday weekend. It's the morning of December 31st, 2000. The world is getting ready to ring in a brand new year. There's a crisp chill in the air of Setagaya Ward, a peaceful, affluent suburb in Tokyo, Japan. You have a key to your daughter's house, which is attached right next to yours in a unique, conjoined duplex structure. You've been trying to call her all morning, but the line has been busy for hours. So you step outside, walk a few feet to her door, and let yourself in. It's completely silent. Too silent. You call out for your daughter Yasuko. No answer. You step into the entry hall, and that's when you notice the air feels different. Heavier. You walk toward the stairs, look down, and your brain stops working. There, lying at the bottom of the steps, is your son-in-law Mikio. He is covered in blood. Panicking, you rush up the steep stairs toward the loft space to find your daughter and your 8-year-old granddaughter, Niina. What you find there will haunt the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department for over a quarter of a century. And the most terrifying part? The killer didn't just run away after committing the crime. He stayed. He stayed for hours. Welcome back to True Crime on the Brain. I'm your host, Audrina. And today we're diving into one of the most chilling, bizarre, and baffling cold cases in modern history, the Setagaya family murders. So grab your coffee, lock your doors, and let's get into it. This episode contains detailed descriptions of extreme violence, the murder of an entire family, and crimes involving young children. So please take care of yourself while listening. Listener discretion advised. It's 1:30 in the morning on December 31st, 2000. Outside, the streets of Setagaya, Tokyo are freezing, dead silent, and wrapped in the heavy stillness of a holiday weekend. But inside the right side of the conjoined duplex at the edge of Soshigaya Park, the house is glowing with a strange, sickly energy. The lights are fully blazing. In the kitchen, a man stands by the open refrigerator. The light hits his face, casting long shadows across the floor. He is bleeding heavily from a deep gash on his right hand. But he isn't rushing. He isn't panicking. He reaches into the freezer, pulls out a small cup of melon-flavored ice cream, peels back the lid, and begins to eat. When he finishes, he takes the small plastic cup and uses his thumbs to squeeze it perfectly, flatly compressed. He sets it on the counter, next to 3 other jars just like it. Then he walks into the living room, stepping right past the lifeless body of 44-year-old Mikio Miyazawa, who lies slumped at the bottom of the stairs. The stranger doesn't even look down. He pulls up a chair at Mikio's desk, sits in the chair, and grabs the computer mouse with his blood-stained hand. The monitor reflects in his eyes as he begins to casually browse the internet, looking up theater tickets, scrolling through web pages, while the rest of the family lies silent in the rooms upstairs. He is not a ghost. He is a living, breathing monster, and he is going to make himself at home for the next 10 hours. To truly feel the isolation of that night, you have to picture the geography of the Miyazawa home. Setagaya is today a bustling, highly sought-after residential ward in Tokyo. But in December of 2000, this specific corner of the neighborhood was an eerie transitional wasteland. The city was aggressively expanding the neighboring Soshigaya Park. To do this, the government had been buying up the surrounding properties and tearing them down. Months earlier, this block was full of neighbors, laughing children, and brightly lit windows. But by the last week of December, virtually everyone had packed up their lives and left. Out of an entire vibrant community, only a couple of homes remained standing among the cleared lots and dirt patches. The Miyazawa family home was essentially an island, flanked on 3 sides by darkness and an increasingly empty, silent public park. Let's look at the family who lived there. Mikio Miyazawa was 44. He was an exceptionally bright corporate identity consultant working for an international firm. His wife, Yasuko, was 41, a dedicated educator who used the ground floor of their home to run a cram school, tutoring neighborhood kids in English and math. They had 2 children, 8-year-old Niina, a cheerful 2nd grader, and 6-year-old Rei, a sweet little boy who struggled with a severe speech impediment, requiring extra care and patience from his parents. Because of the expansion project, the family was already planning on moving out by the spring of 2001. They were already packing boxes. They just had to survive one more winter in the quiet isolation of the park's edge. They had no idea that the isolation they found so peaceful was exactly what a predator was looking for. The evening of Saturday, December 30th, rolls in with freezing temperatures. The Miyazawa family goes about a beautiful, mundane holiday routine. They take a short trip to a nearby train station to do some end-of-the-year shopping. Then, they return home, sit down, and eat dinner together. Around 10:30 p.m., Yasuko steps next door to speak to her mother, Asamio, who lives in the conjoined left half of the duplex. The walls are thin, but the layout provides privacy. Everything is fine. Yasuko wishes her mother a good night and walks back to her side of the duplex. Shortly after, young Niina is watching a recorded TV show in the living room. At 11 o'clock p.m., an automated or password-protected email logs onto Mikio's work account. And then, the world goes black for the Miyazawa family. Outside, a man approaches the back of the house, the side completely exposed to the darkness of the unlit park. He doesn't need to force open a door. Instead, he spots a tiny second-floor bathroom window. The window screen is removed. The killer climbs up the exterior structure, scaling the wall with athletic ease, and forces his body through the narrow opening. The room he steps into is 6-year-old Rei's bedroom. The little boy is fast asleep in his bunk bed. The killer moves silently across the floor, leans over the mattress, and places his hands around the child's neck. Rei is strangled to death in his sleep without ever waking up, leaving no blood behind. But the struggle creates a noise. Downstairs, Mikio hears something out of place from his son's room. He drops what he is doing and rushes up the stairs. At the landing, he runs directly into the intruder. The intruder is heavily armed. He brought with him a sashimi bocho, a highly specialized, incredibly sharp Japanese fish filleting knife with a long, thin blade. Mikio doesn't run. He fights with everything he has to protect his family. The struggle is ferocious. Mikio manages to lacerate the killer's right hand, but the thin blade is devastating. Mikio is stabbed repeatedly across his head, neck, and chest. The force of the attack is so extreme that the tip of the knife blade snaps off, embedding itself inside Mikio's skull. He collapses backward, falling down the stairs, landing lifelessly at the bottom. The killer then climbs to the topmost loft space where Yasuko and 8-year-old Niina are trapped. Using the already damaged broken fish knife, he attacks them both, but the weapon isn't working effectively anymore. In a chilling display of calm, methodical determination, the killer stops, walks all the way down the stairs past Mikio's body, enters the kitchen, and selects a heavy, large kitchen knife from the family's own counter. He walks back up to the loft and finishes the assault on the mother and daughter with unspeakable, frenzied brutality. The family is gone. The house is completely silent again. In almost any international homicide case, this is the moment the perpetrator panics, wipes down surfaces, and vanishes into the night under the cover of darkness. Instead, this killer lives in the house until the next morning. Thanks to an incredibly exhaustive forensic examination by the Tokyo Metropolitan Police, we can map out his movements hour by hour through the night. First, he addresses his own injuries. The gash on his right hand from the fight with Mikio is deep and bleeding rapidly. He walks to the bathroom, opens the family's first aid kit, and pulls out bandages and ointment. He meticulously wraps his hand to stop the bleeding. Next, he grows hungry. He opens the refrigerator and sits down to eat. He consumes a large portion of melon, drinks several bottles of barley tea, and eats 4 individual cups of ice cream. As he finishes each ice cream cup, he performs a highly distinctive action. He uses his hands to pinch and flatten the plastic containers completely flat. Afterwards, he uses the toilet and deliberately leaves his waste unflushed. Later, forensic scientists would analyze the waste to discover his exact last meal before entering the home, a dish containing string beans and sesame seeds. Then comes the digital footprint. At 1:18 a.m., The killer sits at Mikio's personal computer desk, with the father lying dead just feet away. The killer uses the mouse to browse the internet. He goes to the bookmarks, clicks around, and even attempts to purchase tickets to an upcoming theatrical performance for a specific troupe. He spends several minutes online before logging off. He then pulls blankets onto the living room sofa and takes a nap, sleeping through the coldest hours of the night in the middle of a homicide scene. When he wakes up, he begins searching the house. He doesn't take high-value electronics or rare art. Instead, he targets documents. He pulls out Mikio's files, school records, and mail, carrying them into the living room. He takes a pair of scissors and begins methodically cutting the papers into neat strips, arranging them into small, deliberate piles on the floor. At 10:00 a.m. the next morning, nearly 11 hours after entering, he logs onto the computer one final time for a brief 2-minute internet session. Finally, he takes off his heavy winter jacket, his sweatshirt, and his scarf, leaves them neatly folded on the sofa, puts on a different set of clothes from a bag that he brought with him, and walks out the front door into the morning light of New Year's Eve. When Yasuko's mother enters the house at 10:55 a.m., because she can't reach them by phone, she stumbles into a literal archive of the killer's life. The evidence pile is staggering. The killer left behind the sashimi knife and the family's kitchen knife, his gray knit hat, a colorful scarf, a winter jacket, a black sweatshirt, a small hip bag or fanny pack, his distinct Slazenger sneakers size 27.5 centimeters, or if you're in the US, a size 9.5 or 10s in men's, which left clear bloody footprints all over the hardwood floors. He also left copious amounts of his own blood, giving authorities a flawless, pristine DNA profile and clean fingerprints from the computer mouse and tea bottles, as well as his excrement in the toilet. From his clothing, police found trace elements of a highly specific, expensive French perfume, Drake Noir. Inside the pockets of his jacket, they found microscopic particles of sand. When analyzed under advanced spectrometry, this wasn't Japanese sand. It was a mineral match for Edwards Air Force Base in California. The sand contained a specific mixture of crushed quartz and desert terrain that was unique to the area of the Mojave Desert. His DNA profile tells an incredible story. His maternal lineage contains distinct genetic markers belonging to European or Mediterranean populations, likely from a mother of mixed heritage, while his paternal DNA is distinctly East Asian. Every single piece of evidence is a direct arrow pointing to a specific human being. Yet, when the fingerprints and DNA were run through every criminal registry, every driver's license database, and every military record in Japan, the system came back with absolute silence. The profile matched no one. This brings us to the core frustration of the Setagaya case, and a massive talking point for true crime analysts. Why did an investigation with 16,000 pieces of physical evidence and 280,000 hours of police work stall out completely? To understand it, you have to look at the massive systemic differences between how a mass homicide is investigated in Japan versus how it would be handled in the United States. If a brutal family slaughter like this had occurred in a major American city in December of 2000, the machinery of justice would have moved with aggressive, sweeping speed, but with a very different set of tools. The American system is built on massive, centralized, and highly integrated cross-state databases. Systems like CODIS for DNA and APHIS for fingerprints are designed to cast a massive net across thousands of miles. Because the U.S. deals with a highly transient population, a crime committed in California can instantly flash a red light in New York if a suspect is picked up on a minor traffic violation or on a separate arrest. Furthermore, American policing relies heavily on an adversarial, high-velocity approach. Detectives utilize immediate media saturation, public press conferences detailing specific suspect profiles, and aggressive interrogation tactics. American prosecutors are highly comfortable bringing a case to trial on circumstantial evidence or leveraging massive plea bargains to get accomplices to talk. Japan's system operates on an entirely different legal and cultural philosophy. It is an institution built on absolute precision, local community immersion, and an intense aversion to risk. First, consider the database limitations. In the year 2000, Japan's national DNA database was exceptionally small and highly restricted, containing almost exclusively the profiles of previously convicted violent offenders within the country. It did not cross-reference with international agencies like Interpol automatically, nor did it include everyday citizens. If the Setagaya killer was a first-time offender, a foreign tourist, or a visitor who left the country immediately after the crime, the Japanese database was essentially looking into a black hole. Second, the Japanese police force operates under the weight of a famous, staggering statistic: a conviction rate of over 99%. While this speaks to an incredibly thorough investigation process, it also creates an environment where authorities are deeply hesitant to make an arrest or file charges unless they possess an airtight, mathematically absolute case, ideally backed by a full confession. In 2000, plea bargaining did not legally exist in Japan. It wasn't introduced into their legal code until 2018. This meant investigators couldn't squeeze low-level associates or informants with promises of reduced sentences to get information on a larger target. The investigative style in Japan is incredibly hyper-localized. When the Tokyo Metropolitan Police took over the Miyazawa home, their response was to literally break down the physical reality of the neighborhood. They interviewed over 250,000 local citizens. They checked every single purchase record for that specific brand of sashimi knife across Tokyo. They checked the sales of the rare Slazenger shoes down to individual buyers. But this intense, granular focus on local communities creates an immediate vulnerability when confronted with a globalized international criminal. American investigators are built to chase a moving, transient target across state lines. The Japanese system at the turn of the century was perfectly optimized for a stationary, domestic population. When confronted with California sand, a mixed European-Asian DNA profile, and shoes distributed in international markets, the local machinery of the Tokyo police struggled to advance outward. They spent years looking for a local resident who held a grudge against Mikio or Yasuko, while the evidence kept loudly screaming that the killer may have flown across the ocean before the ice cream cups in the freezer had ever even begun to melt. As the years rolled into decades, the theories around the Setagaya case became legendary. Because of the mixed DNA, the foreign sand, and the specific size of the sneakers, which were sold in quantities that matched distributions in South Korea and the US rather than Japan, many experts believe the killer was either a foreign national, a mixed-race exchange student, or a member of the US military personnel stationed at one of the nearby bases who managed to exit the country before his suspicions arose. Others point to the highly bizarre behavior inside the house. The cutting of the documents, the flattening of the ice cream cups, the deliberate use of the computer? Was this the work of a professional assassin looking for specific corporate documents related to Mikio's international consulting work? Or was it simply a deeply disorganized, severely mentally ill transient who simply found an isolated house on the edge of a dark park and decided to live out a horrific, chaotic fantasy? Every single year on December 30th, a solemn ritual takes place in Setagaya. The top officials of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department form a procession, walk to the gates of the preserved Miyazawa home, bow their heads, and offer a public apology to the victims. They promise that they will never stop looking. The reward for information remains one of the highest in Japanese history, worth millions of yen. The house still stands today, encased in a massive protective shroud to prevent the elements from destroying the remaining physical structures. A silent, towering monument to the night the new year arrived with a monster in the dark. What do you think? Was this a transient traveler who slipped through the borders, an international hit, or someone still living quietly in the heart of Tokyo? Let me know your thoughts. Head over to our social media pages to let us know. Thank you for listening as I tell you about another case that has been rattling inside my brain. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe if you enjoy the podcast. A new episode is released every Friday at midnight Central Standard Time. And don't forget to stay sane with true crime on the brain. I'll see you next week.